Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why I say, fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. push a mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact. Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind, you know I'll always manifest it.
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick, and Friday night, and I'm not feeling 100% good, but it is what it is. It's I'm really achy, pain all over my body, all my neck, my hand, and I figured out why my hand hurt because this morning it was hurting like crazy, and it still is hurting like crazy. You guys remember when I fell, when I passed out, and I hurt my hand when I fell? Well, this hand is acting up again with a lot of pain. And usually when this hand acts up like that, is it could be pain that's coming from my neck. And it's giving me issues. But I'm going to try to bear with it, move it around, jerk it around. It hurts like hell. Like, it's not fun. But it's Friday night. Welcome to the weekend. Another crazy day, of course, like always. Let's take a live look at Tel Aviv. This is Tel Aviv right now. It looks pretty quiet at the moment. It could change at any moment. Monitoring it on different devices here, and there's other couple of shows that we're going to be watching. Jason A put out like 3 different videos, 4 actually, because I didn't see the one from late last night. So we will be watching that momentarily. Let me bring up some more cameras that I have here. Bear with me. And check out these these cameras right here, which shows Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. So you get 4 cameras for the price of one, which is a nice little touch there. We can get a closer look at the western wall. Give me 1 sec as I set that up. Here we go. And this is a live look inside of the western wall. There are people there and they are praying. So I really hope Iran doesn't attack this site, but it doesn't. I don't think Iran really cares. I think Iran would love to target this site and to destroy it. So that's why I'm going to be monitoring it. I hope that it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, I'll be here and we'll be watching it live. And we do have an outside look from the western wall from a distance. That camera we were just watching is down here, facing this way. So we got a lot of good angles of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And let's go ahead and start off with Jason A's video from last night it was late at night when it came out. And then there's 3 more we're going to be watching of his. So it's going to be a back-to-back videos of Jason A. Let's go.
But basically, it's in the light of what we would call a global crisis of global proportions that the Bible says there will be introduced a new way of governing and ruling and controlling the world. He tells us that there'll be this charismatic, unifying leader who will promise, according to Paul to the Thessalonians, peace and safety.
This is a statement from the Secretary General, and I'll read it to you in the first person. I remain profoundly alarmed by the ongoing military escalation in the Middle East between Israel and Iran. I reiterate my call for the immediate de-escalation leading to a ceasefire. I strongly appeal to all to avoid any further internationalization of the conflict. Any additional military interventions could have enormous consequences, not only for those involved, but for the whole region and for the international peace and security at large. I condemn this tragic and unnecessary loss of lives and injuries to civilians and damage to homes and critical civilian infrastructure. Diplomacy remains the best and only way to address concerns regarding Iran's nuclear programs and regional security issues. The UN Charter remains our shared framework to save people from the scourge of war. I urge all member states to comply fully with the Charter and international law, including international humanitarian law.
It's particularly this word peace or safety in the original, which means stability, security, safe from enemies and dangers. That there'll be this one who will say, I'm going to fix everything that's wrong and make it all work the way it's supposed to.
I want to add 1 sentence. The Israeli Prime Minister came here today and said that Israel is surrounded by those who want to destroy it, an enemy. We're here, members of a Muslim Arab Committee, mandated by 57 Arab and Muslim countries. And I can tell you here, very unequivocally, all of us are willing to, right now, guarantee the security of Israel in the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state, along the efforts that we all agree. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. And if he does not want the two-state solution, can you ask Israeli officials, what is their end game? Other than just wars and wars and wars. I'm telling you, all of us in the Arab world here, we want a peace in which Israel lives in peace and security, accepted, normalized with all Arab countries in the context of ending the occupation, withdrawing from Arab territory, allowing for the emergence of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state on June 4, 1967, lies with occupied Jerusalem as capital. That is our narrative. That is, and we will guarantee Israel's security in that context. Can you ask Israelis what's their narrative other than I'm going to continue to go to war, I'm going to kill this and kill that and destroy this and this that? The amount of damage that Israeli government has done, 30 years of efforts to convince people that peace is possible, this Israeli government killed it. The amount of dehumanization, hatred, bitterness will take generations to navigate through. So ultimately the question is, we want peace. And we've laid out a plan for peace. Ask any Israeli official, what is their plan for peace? You'll get nothing because they're only thinking of the first step. We're going to go destroy Gaza, inflame the West Bank, destroy Lebanon. And after that, they have no plan. We have a plan. We have no partner for peace in Israel. There is a partner for peace in the Arab world, and that's why the international community needs to move.
It's also interesting, and I think not just coincidentally, that one of the first things the United Nations did was declare that Israel was a nation. And that has led to all sorts of interesting complications in the world today, which we'll talk about later on.
But Matt, Iran has kicked out IAEA inspectors. There could be portions of their nuclear program that are secret. A nuclear secret in the Middle East. How about it? If the world is interested in a secret nuclear program in the Middle East, there is a country that won't allow any international inspectors. Israel. Israel has a nuclear weapon. Did you know that? I do. They allow no inspections. They are fully secretive and clandestine.
And they don't allow inspections.
The Americans are fully aware.
So
you know what? I don't even blame
Israel
Israel for this. If they want to develop a nuclear weapon, if they had the blessing to do so secretly, I'm not in judgment of that. But to drag the world into a regime change war over secret nuclear weapons, when you have secret nuclear weapons, is a bit hypocritical.
Yeah.
So here's the deal.
That's what I said.
How about Iran and Israel both give up their secret nuclear weapon programs? If Trump got that deal, he wouldn't only get the Nobel Peace Prize, they'd probably name it the Trump Peace Prize forevermore. And it's not that crazy to think about Israel denuclearizing.
But this concern, I think, was best expressed by the man who in my early generation or early lifetime was the most famous and trusted news broadcaster and journalist in the entire United States, if not around the world, a man by the name of Walter Cronkite. Most people don't realize that in 1999, he spoke at the United Nations and he received the Norman Cousins Global Governance Award. He received an award for being the one who had worked the hardest in that year to push forward the idea of one world government based upon the United Nations. In that speech, listen to what he says. It seems to many of us that if we are to avoid the eventual catastrophic world conflict, in other words, people concerned about nuclear war and war beyond anything we'd ever experienced, if we're going to avoid it, we must strengthen the United Nations as a first step towards a world government. With a legislature, executive, and judiciary, and police force to enforce international laws and to keep the peace. To do that, of course, we Americans will have to yield up some of our sovereignty. In other words, the idea that we are an independent nation state. We have to get over that and move on. That would be a bitter pill, he admitted. It would take a lot of courage, a lot of faith in the new world order. This leader will come in the wake of a time of tumult, and people will believe that he's the one. And Revelation gives us some indication of how he accomplishes these things. But we're also warned that rather than bringing the peace and safety that he promises, it says it will be a time of sudden destruction. Olithros in the Greek, the word destruction there literally means ruin and death and destruction. That in his path will be horrible consequences. In fact, he's a ruler, we're told in Revelation 6, who is not bent on peace, but rather he tells us he is bent on conquest.
What are you doing up?
Daniel, in fact, goes on to say that he will devour the whole earth. He will trample it down and crush it, causing astounding devastation, and he will crush and break all others.
About using so-called bunker busting
What we're
bombs
talking about,
that only the US has.
We're watching
on a
Jason A.
deep underground nuclear facility.
I don't know the technical danger. I'm not an expert for this. I know that there is a danger in which America can get us involved in a regional and maybe even in a world war. I mean, the Russians already said some things, and I don't think they can remain passive if the United States will attack their ally. So it is very explosive, very dangerous. Everyone is gambling, and nobody knows how will this gamble end. I'm very, very concerned.
Nobody has nuclear
as I've tried
power.
to point out, the desire for one world government is as old as sin itself.
We're all
But it really
equal,
began to get a new kind of
and
traction after
we're
World War
destroying your
One.
nuclear sites.
Many of us remember from our history studies. I don't know that there's any of us who were alive when it was taking place. But after World War I, there was such an incredible level of death and destruction that so exceeded anything seen before
Nice.
in the world.
Hey, 319.
That's what you have to understand. This war that was promised to be the end of all wars, in its
420
period,
somewhere in
killed
the
someplace
world,
between 30
right?
and 40 million people.
920 here where
Nothing
I'm
like
at.
this had ever been experienced in human
smoking
history.
up.
That as a result of that, the major nations of the world gathered together and said, basically, how can we avoid something like this into the future? And they formed a governing system, what we call a one world government, which was given the name the League of Nations. And the League of Nations probably would have had some success because the idea is we have some place for countries to go and work out their differences before war breaks out. Except the Congress of the United States embraced basically an isolationist policy, so that even though our president, Woodrow Wilson, was a chief driver behind this League of Nations, he actually could not convince his own nation to support it, and it died without participation of the United States. The concern was best expressed, I think, after World War II, when again they thought, how did we end up in this place again? And many people argued, because we didn't become part of the League of Nations, that's why we ended up in war. So we need to create a new form of the League of Nations. We'll call it the United Nations. And so it was founded and formed beginning in early 1945. It was to be a more comprehensive union with more authority, more power to interfere and intervene. And interestingly, the United States was willing to put boots on the ground in order to enforce many of the things that the United Nations wanted to see addressed. Revelation reveals that before the fall and destruction of this final beast-like empire,
let me come to me. That's why Iran does not want to talk to the U.S. at all. They want to go straight to who? The EU. They want to talk to the EU and try to get this resolved. Like, what Europe's gonna do? Europe, like, you guys are cool and everything, but your governments are crazy all over the place. They're all over the place. It's like you guys are not united at all. You just united because you're Europe, but other than that, y'all are so divided over there. So it's the whole world is that way right now. It's all divided, and Iran doesn't want to deal or talk to the U.S. because they have China ties. Like, Iran has their sources and so forth, and their dealings, and they deal a lot with the Chinese, and they deal a lot with the Russians, and it's kind of like if you attack Iran, you're kind of like attacking China and Russia. And this could escalate to a World War III situation where, Russia's going to go and protect their assets and their people, because they're the ones that are working on this enrichment shit and doing all this work underground. And the Chinese too. Don't get it twisted. They're there. And that's why I say, I know there's a weapon. There is weapons. It's just deep underground. It's like really freaking deep. I have a feeling, I don't know, but there was an earthquake there in Iran today. It was a 5.1 on the Richter scale, which is pretty strong earthquake. Iran is a very active country when it comes to earthquakes and so forth, but it's just a coincidence that with the intention the way it is, and all of a sudden you have like a 5.1 earthquake. Could it have been a test of a nuclear weapon? I don't know. We don't know. Nobody don't know. Maybe it was a test, but we're gonna jump on that momentarily after we finish this. Got a couple of videos, and then we'll get to that earthquake part, because there is a video I have up for us to watch about that earthquake. Very weird timing, right? Very unique timing, but it is what it is.
It would continue in power for a period of 7 years. That's called the Great Tribulation, or the tribulation period. Actually, the tribulation is divided into two parts, 3.5-year periods. The first half is called the tribulation.
It's pretty
the last
united.
3.5 years are called the Great Tribulation, for reasons that become fairly obvious when you
know.
read through Revelation.
I don't think that would be.
But basically, he's going to rule politically, where it says in Revelation, it says,
time.
who can make war against him? I mean, his
into a
governance power is so great that there's no one who can confront his power.
How
Economically,
united
we're told that
is
no
Europe
one
gonna
can
be?
buy or sell unless he has the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name.
Who's gonna
In a few
call
weeks,
up?
I'm going to
Who's
tell
gonna
you
be the ones that are
exactly
gonna
what
step
that
up?
is, so don't miss that one.
You know,
Oh, I tell you now, it's a mark. Anyway, but also, thirdly, religiously, when he tells us in Revelation 13, men worship the dragon because he had been given authority to the beast. And they also
Hell
worship
yeah.
the beast
Not
and
only
ask,
one,
who
we
is
used
like
to.
the beast?
don't get it
And it
twisted.
says he
girl.
causes all who refuse to worship
The
the
United
image
States
to be
actually
killed.
detonated 2 nuclear weapons.
So if you won't worship, you won't, much
And
like ancient Rome
it
that
forced Japan
required allegiance to the
submit.
emperor, and if you
Like,
didn't offer sacrifice as an
instantly,
evidence of your
like,
allegiance
they
to the
were
emperor,
like,
you were
we
killed.
give up.
So also it will
That's
be
it.
in the
White
days of
flag.
the Antichrist.
White flag. That's
That those who
that's-
refuse to submit to his authority,
knew.
because that's
They're
when the worship
like,
comes down to absolute
we
total
can't.
domination
There's
and
no
authority,
way.
will
No
be
way.
executed.
Fuck with the U.S. That's it.
Now, the question that often arises is there any evidence
Imagine,
that anything like this
being
is
there
happening
when that
today, that
happened,
we are moving
that bomb
towards
dropped. Oh my
this kind of
goodness. Those people
system?
had no choice, no chance either. Those so scary, man. Scary times we're living in for sure. Let's go ahead to this one here, which is Putin is warned of World War III. So let's take a look at this.
Are you concerned that we are heading into World War III in any way?
It does concern me. And there is no irony about it. This is no joking. A lot of conflict potential is out there, and it's growing. Right next to our borders, there is one conflict that directly affects us. I'm referring to the conflict in Ukraine. Now, see what's happening in the Middle East. And clearly, we're very much concerned with what's happening around nuclear facilities of Iran. We're very much concerned with the possible implications and outcomes. And definitely, this requires not only very much attention on our part, but also we need to seek solutions to those situations and peaceful solutions along all these lines. And again, I'm very candid here, and that's why we're here, by the way.
And as the war between Iran and Israel escalates, the Russian president has urged both nations to de-escalate, and on speculation of the US getting directly involved in Israel's war against Iran, the Kremlin has said that it would have negative consequences. Earlier in the day, the Russian president held a telephonic conversation with the Chinese president. Both the leaders jointly condemned Israel's action on Iran. In fact, Russia has also warned the US against direct involvement in the Iran war. The Kremlin has urged Israel to immediately halt the air attacks on Bushehr nuclear plant, where Russian experts are currently working. Putin has also offered to mediate in the Israel war, in fact, in the Israel-Iran war, and addressing a televised press conference in St. Petersburg, Putin suggested that Moscow could help negotiate a settlement that could allow Tehran to pursue a peaceful atomic program while assuaging the Israeli security concerns. In January, Russia and Iran had signed a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. But Putin clarified that the agreement does not relate to the defense sphere. He also said that Russia had earlier offered Iran projects in the field of air defense systems, but Tehran showed little
it's going to be all with
interest
NATO.
at that time.
Мы
NATO
защищаем
is a powerful.
и тех, кто создает угрозы для Российской Федерации. А это в основе своей, в принципе, одни и те же силы, что в Иране, что в российском случае, там где-то подальше, в тылу, за спиной. Мы, несмотря на всю сложность ситуации вокруг Ирана, построили атомный реактор в Иране, в Бушире. Мы заключили контракт на строительство еще 2 атомных реакторов. И мы, несмотря на всю сложность ситуации, несмотря на опасность определенную, мы продолжаем эту работу. Мы не эвакуируем наш персонал оттуда.
They will open the Pandora box. It should be unacceptable. Even talking about that should be unacceptable for everyone.
When Russia and Iran signed their Strategic Partnership Treaty in January, it formalized a relationship that's been deepening for years. The two have long cooperated on energy, with Russia helping build Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plants and working together to sidestep US sanctions on their oil and gas sectors. They've also shared military drills, most recently in March, with Russian, Iranian and Chinese navies exercising together in the Gulf of Oman.
Мы когда-то предлагали нашим иранским друзьям поработать в области системы ПВО. Ну, так большого интереса тогда партнеры не проявили. И все. Что касается договора, о котором вы сказали, о стратегическом партнерстве, там нет статей, связанных с оборонной сферой. Это второе. А третье, наши иранские друзья об этом и не просят. Так что практически нечего обсуждать.
The strategic partnership does not include any mutual defense commitments, and Russia's military capacity to help Tehran isn't what it used to be.
Russia will, by no circumstances, get involved directly in this war for 2 reasons. First one, that's not the war which directly touches upon Russian interest. Indirectly, yes, but directly not. But the more important reason is that Russia has a very clear priority. And as long as this priority is in force, I mean, Ukrainian conflict and Ukrainian campaign, Russia has no capacity to get involved in any other military actions.
Speaking to journalists in St. Petersburg, Putin suggested Iran was on its own.
The presidents of Russia and China have condemned Israel for its military strikes on Iran. Sky UK reporter Ivor Bennett talked with Vladimir Putin's spokesperson earlier.
It should be unacceptable. Even talking about that should be unacceptable for everyone.
But it is being talked about. Donald Trump has been openly speculating about it. What do you make of that language? Is it irresponsible, inflammatory?
Well, he never said about a definite decision on that.
But he's speculating about killing Iran's supreme leader.
We would rather not do that by ourselves.
If it were to happen, though, that Israel assassinated Ayatollah Ali Khamenei with US assistance, how would Russia react?
Very negatively. Very negatively. We will strongly disapprove it.
Would it prompt any action?
Well, actually, it will lead to an action coming from inside Iran. Iran's society is very well organized and very well consolidated, and it will lead to birth of extremist moods inside Iran. And those who are speaking about that, they should keep it in mind. They will open the Pandora box. We did a lot of mistakes, and we did open lots of Pandora boxes through the last decade. Why should we do another mistake? I think that the situation is extremely tense and it's dangerous, not only for the region, but globally wise. And enlargement of the geography of the conflict, enlargement of the composition of participants of the conflict potentially is extremely, even more dangerous. This is our attitude, and it will lead only to, let's say, another circle of confrontation and then the escalation of tension in the region. Potentially, it's extremely dangerous.
Relations between Russia and Iran. We support Iran in its struggle for its legitimate interests, including the interests with respect to peaceful uses of the atomic energy. And this has always been our position. This is our principled position, including in this conflict. It has never changed. And those who claim that we should have done more, well, what more?
Мы заключили контракт на строительство еще 2 блоков. Работы идут, и наши специалисты находятся на
I
площадке.
think Trump is very hesitant to be doing anything like too risky because a lot of attempts already has been taken of his life.
Мы видим, что на
So
сегодняшний
I'm pretty sure it'll be okay
при всей
if
сложности
he passes
происходящих
on
там
that
внутриполитических
cemetery.
процессов, мы об этом знаем, и я думаю, нет смысла
Because
углубляться, но
things are
все-таки
really weird
происходит
going on in the
консолидация
world.
общества вокруг политического
And
руководства.
there's a lot of weird
Ну, это
immigration
почти всегда и везде так
issues
происходит.
in the Netherlands too. So I wouldn't go if I was president. I'd be like, that's all right. I'm good. I got bigger fish to fry. I can't, not gonna put my life at a risk just for going on a cemetery. That's like John F. Kennedy going on a joyride and getting shot, and being set up by his own team. There, I said it. Yeah. So it's there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of big movements, a lot of big calls going around the world. Trump is not sitting there and we're just getting like bullshit little news like we're getting from the news. Like I could actually project and I could feel the energy of all these calls that are going through. And India's already been on the phone with Trump. You got the Pakistan was on the phone. You got all these countries like kind of like worried about what's gonna happen because this affects this will affect trade. This will affect the gas. This will affect a lot of countries that depend on India for their gas and oil. So this is really, 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 really big, really big. We're very, I like I said, I'm happy to be alive to witness this. I'm alive for a reason. We're all alive for a reason, and it's to witness something. We are going to witness something big happen, and is this the time that's going to happen? Like, is this, are we living the time frame of this happening? It could be. If it happens, it's like it's out of our hands. This is just they're just fulfilling prophecies right now. That's all that's happening right now is all these prophecies being filled, and we're just the spectators, and a lot of us are not really paying attention to what's going on. A lot of people are distracted with all the protests here in the U.S. and all the distractions that are here in the U.S. Like that energy, I'm not even giving them any energy. I'm more putting the attention with this Israel-Iran because that's a big deal. It's a very big deal. It's a I'll tell you, it's bigger than what people think it is. It's a scary time right now, and it's gonna get dangerous. It's gonna get dangerous, and for here, in the U.S. too, like with the sleeper cells, and the people like. I'm just saying it's just gonna be very interesting to watch from a spectator, but is World War III going to break out, and then is the U.S. going to also have a plan if Russia jumps into the war? Is the U.S. going to attack Russia. And if that's the case, NATO needs to get involved because World War III cannot start without NATO. Hello, where the fuck is NATO, by the way? Where's been NATO? Like NATO's like the most like they're like the slowest group ever, and they're supposed to be united, and that's why I say there's no united. There's nobody's united. Europe is not even united. They're not united. There's people that don't even contribute. So how is that united? Like if you don't put in, like I don't get it. Like I guess that's what. I guess I don't know. It's just mind blowing. Because they like to get everything for free and not put in nothing, not even a dime. Like it's ridiculous. But I just feel like this is a very, 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 very special time in history that we're living in. It's you guys don't feel the energy. I feel it. I feel it so strong. I can feel it all the way down to my feet. And any decision is it can lead us through a certain time path that is a fabric in time, and depending on decisions that are made that could be done at any moment could change everyone's life at a blink. And it's unique. We're in unique times, man. Like yeah. Let's see what happens. I mean, it's so much anxiety. That's what's the problem. It's anxiety. This is anxiety, especially when it comes to war and possible like could it have like like an outbreak type of that they attack Israel with a bombardment, like overwhelm the system? Because I think that's the only way that you could really really hurt Israel is you overwhelm the Iron Dome, you overwhelm the David Sling, the Patriot missile, all their missiles, all whatever you want to put that's defending Israel. If you overwhelm the system and just just go for it and like a blitz, there's gonna be a lot of casualties and it's gonna be a lot of problems. I wonder if Israel is going after Israel's nuclear place, like because they also are enriching and they do have a weapon. They do have a weapon. We know that for sure. They have a weapon, and they have many of them. They have a lot of nuclear weapons, and no inspector has ever gone to Israel to inspect what they have and what's going on. Not one time in the decades, the same as Iran. So, like, it's very hypocritical of Israel stating, like, oh, they have nuclear weapons, this and that. Okay, so do you ever look at yourself in the mirror? Because that would have bounced back and it would have been talking to you, and you are hiding nuclear weapons too. So, two wrongs don't make a right. Like, none of y'all supposed to have nuclear weapons. Like, wait a minute. Time out, hold up. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, none of y'all supposed to have. So, Israel, you need to give up your nuclear weapons too. Listen, let's not be hypocrites. Come on now. Like, you don't come blaming another country and saying they're nuclear, but then you have nuclear and you have like weapons of mass destruction. So, I mean, help me make it make sense. Help me make it make sense. I don't know. I mean, I see it from both sides. You know, I put myself in both sides, and I see what Israel has. Israel has a lot of weapons and a lot of dirty weapons. Israel, when it comes to it, like if there's like if they're being attacked to the point that they can't survive and they're desperate, they're gonna shoot those nuclear weapons, and they're gonna cause collateral damage. They're gonna just, it's like, fuck it. The end is now. End of the world. Fuck it. You know, everybody free for all. That'll be nuts, man. That'll be nuts to experience, you know? And then that's gonna be saved in history because it'll be saved digitally. So there's no burning of the books, so the history doesn't erase, because there's so many books and so much history that's been taken away from humanity. Let's not like pretend that never happened. Let's pretend like the history that we have now from then is actually true history, because a lot of these books have been written, especially the Bible. Oh Lord, help me make sense. I don't know. But let's go ahead and go to this next story here. Well, it's Jason A again, and it's about that earthquake that happened. It's just very suspicious. I mean, they do get earthquakes, I understand, but just the timing of it, like all the things that are going on, and all of a sudden you have like this weird 5.1 earthquake that was like 10 meters down, which is not that far deep. It could have been a nuclear test. It could have been a test. And we're just downplaying it, thinking that it's an earthquake. Maybe it was a test. And maybe they tested it and they got plenty of them because they have decades head start. And plus, like the last 4 years, they got $6 billion. So they could have bought a whole bunch of like ammunition and rockets and all the supplies that they want. With $6 billion, holy shit. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, man. Shit, give me 1 million. I'll be happy. Just half of a million. That's like a thing. And that little 6 billion, that would have helped me so much. You know what I mean? But we went ahead and just gave him money. Like, here you go, Biden, with his auto pen friend. He was like, "Hey, how you doing, auto pen? Hey, I'm not gonna be using you that much, but others are gonna be using you. I think. I'm tired. I'm gonna sleep. I had some ice cream earlier, and it gave me a little upset stomach, but I'm okay now. I'm just tired. So, yeah, do whatever you want with the auto pen. Okay, knock yourself out, kid." Oh, he said kid. Was that Hunter Biden that he was saying? Yeah, go ahead and use the auto pen. I'm pretty sure Hunter Biden used that auto pen like more than a couple of times. I'm just saying, weird. When you have a feeling, you have a feeling. Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting times right now. We're living such special times. And if World War III breaks out because of what's going on in Iran, oh man, they're gonna have the draft here. All these people that are protesting and acting a fool and have this extra energy to burn and they're not working, guess what? You already been tagged. You're welcome to the Hunger Games, bitch. You've been elected to come on to the front lines, bitch. We're gonna train you. We'll give you a weapon, and here you go, kid. Survive. The draft could come back, and they could grab all these protesters. All these like wannabe, thugs and bringing their flags, representing other countries. Okay, bring your flags too. Bring them. Let me tell you something. They don't care about your flags. The Iranians don't care about your fucking pronouns. They don't care about anything. They see you, they'll kill you. It's just that hectic right now. It's not safe for Americans in Iran. I hope there's no Americans in Iran, because if they are, they're in danger. But hopefully they got out before everything started. But I don't think so, because it was a surprise attack. It wasn't like a pre-planned attack. It was a surprise out of nowhere. It was kind of like a sucker punch. Like you were walking down the hall and some bitch comes and like pulls your hair. That's what happened. Like the bitch pull your hair, and then you turn around and it's that bitch, that like Becky bitch, you know, like you want to fuck up Becky. It's like, oh hell to the fuck no. I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Oh my god. You know you're gonna knock that bitch out. You're gonna try to punch that bitch out. So that's what's going on right now. These bitches are fighting. The bitches are going back and forth and they're hitting each other with punches. And they're hurt. They hurt. There's people dying. There's people getting hurt. You know, it's like, I feel like it's a sacrifice. Like this is part of a plan, is a part of a sacrificial, like, so much prophecies going on and coming true. And I wonder, it's just premeditated energy that they just want it to happen, just for it to happen so they can witness it. And that's kind of selfish. But I don't know, I digress. But let's check out that earthquake, because it's very fucking interesting. Crazy earthquake.
All right, so let's start this broadcast with some breaking inputs that have just come in, where apart from the ongoing air war with the state of Israel, a 5.2-degree earthquake has rattled the northern part of Iran. The Iranian media has said that the quake measured 5.2 on the Richter scale, and its epicenter was about 10 kilometers deep. It was about 37 kilometers southwest of the city of Semnan. The tremors were also felt in the capital city of Tehran, about 150 kilometers from the city of Semnan.
What a coincidence, right? Earthquake.
That is coming in besides the hot war.
5.2.
Iran at this moment
I said 5.1.
is
That's
involved in the state of
5.2.
Israel. There's also been yet another earthquake that has been reported in Iran. It reportedly measured about 5.2 on the Richter scale, and it has rattled northern Iran. The Iranian media has said that the epicenter of this quake was about 10 kilometers under the ground, and it was 37 kilometers southwest of the city of Semnan. The tremors were also experienced in the Iranian capital, Tehran, as well.
And as the Israel-Iran conflict escalates, loud explosions were heard near Iran's Fordo nuclear site as it came under Israeli fire. Well, just as Israeli strikes were reported at the nuclear facility, a magnitude 2.5 earthquake struck Iran's Qom province. Now, according to an initial earthquake report from Iran's National Seismological Center, the earthquake in Qom province had a depth of around 10 kilometers. Now, shortly after the earthquake in Qom, another earthquake of magnitude 4.3 struck Iran's Sistan and Balochistan province bordering Pakistan. The twin earthquakes triggered chatter and speculation on social media about whether Israeli strikes at Fordo had triggered the earthquake or Iran had carried out underground nuclear tests. In October last year, similar speculations had emerged after a 4.4 magnitude earthquake had hit the city of Aradan in Iran's Semnan province. Now, back then, the social media was abuzz with speculations over Iran conducting its first underground nuclear test, triggering seismic
Oh
activity.
shit, this might have been another
Earthquake with a
test.
5.1
They must have tested a few
magnitude was felt
times.
in northern Iran, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. It was felt in the Qom region, home to
That'd be
Iran's
crazy if they
Fordo
did.
nuclear enrichment facility. Israeli forces have largely not attacked the Fordo facility, though it has attacked several others. The Fordo facility is buried deep underneath the area's mountainous terrain. It's believed that Israel does not have the weapons to destroy Fordo and wants the United States to use the massive ordnance penetrator, a 30,000-pound bomb.
Bitch, you better come with
designed to
that
hit
credit card
underground
if you want us
structures.
to do
President
that
Donald
for
Trump
you.
said he would make
That's
the
not
decision
cheap.
on whether to do that over the next 2
I mean,
weeks.
you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araki said, quote, "We have explicitly told the U.S. that as long as the aggression and attacks continue, there is simply no room for talk of dialogue or diplomacy."
The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency tells me in an exclusive interview, Iran does have enough uranium for several nuclear bombs, and the regime is just a quick step away from enriching to weapons-grade uranium. However, he said he saw no plans for Iran to take that step. And he believes even at this stage, diplomacy is the path to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon.
I believe that there is a way to take this danger or this concern out of the table in a negotiated way with a very robust, as I said, I've been in conversations, very good conversations with Steve Witkoff and with the Iranians as well. I believe that there are ways in which we can make sure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon.
Now, Israel reports every day their fighters and drones are taking out missile systems in Iran. Today, we have images of that. The IDF says strikes were carried out in the areas of Isfahan and Tehran, saying the equipment that you see in these images are both radar installations and missile systems intended to strike Israeli aircraft. For days now, Israel says that their fighters have enjoyed air superiority, meaning they can operate at will in the skies over Iran without the risk of being shot down. Carly and Todd?
Okay, Mike Tobin live for us in Tel Aviv. Mike, thank you. Let's bring in Benham Ben Taleblu, Iran Program Senior Director and Senior Fellow for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Benham, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. So yesterday we also learned that President Trump is going to make his final decision within 2 weeks on whether or not the U.S. will take military action against Iran. So how do you feel about that 2-week deadline?
Great to be with you and good morning. Listen, I think all eyes will be on President Trump and on the U.S. in these 2 weeks.
The Bushehr nuclear power plant is Iran's first commercial nuclear reactor and is a product of collaboration between Russia and Iran. Located near the city of Bushehr in southern Iran, the plant currently has one operational reactor with 2 more reactors planned for the future. Russia provides the nuclear fuel for the Bushehr plant.
Oh, that's why Russia's going to get mad.
Iran escalation has raised an important question as well. Will Moscow
It
be
fucks
dragged
with
into the war
Russia's
in an effort to safeguard
business
its people and interests in Iran?
to fuel
Launch
the
came as President Trump
nuclear
said he
plant.
would allow 2 weeks for diplomacy before deciding whether to launch a U.S. strike in Iran. 1 week into the conflict, casualties continue to rise, as you'd imagine, on both sides.
An Iranian airstrike hit a hospital in southern Israel, injuring dozens yesterday, and a large number of Israelis were hurt
Yeah, I
in a
don't think so
missile
either.
attack on
But-
high-rise buildings outside Tel Aviv. The Iranians are threatening to take legal action against the UN's nuclear watchdog, calling the IAEA complicit in Israel's strikes on their facilities. The agency's chief strongly disagrees, saying he's found no evidence that Iran is close to acquiring a nuclear weapon.
One thing is to have the material to put in a warhead, and a very different one is to have everything else that, as you can imagine, goes inside a warhead to make it work.
Oh yeah,
And
they've
we do
been
not have any
doing that
evidence that
forever.
this is
Israel's
ongoing,
been trying to do this for
in Iran.
decades.
Amid the ongoing conflict in the region, both United and
Israel
American
always wants
Airlines
us to
say
get
they've
into some
halted their regular
scrap
flights to
and
both
so
Dubai and Doha for the next several days.
President Trump is
If
waiting
it
to
wasn't
make a
Iraq,
final
it was
decision on whether
fucking
to attack
Iran.
Iran. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt read a direct quote from the president this afternoon.
Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks.
Multiple sources tell CBS News the president believes disabling Fordow,
I
Iran's
hope-
most
I hope-
secure nuclear site, is necessary because of the
I hope
risk of
Trump
Iran
says
producing nuclear
to
weapons in
Israel,
a
you
relatively
need to get
short
rid of
period
your
of time.
Let's
your
be very
nuclear
clear.
weapons too.
Iran has all that it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon.
Israel has targeted Fordow, but doesn't have the heavy weaponry the U.S. could provide.
If you talk to Israelis on the street, they would really like to see the Americans come in, but
if the Americans don't come in, I think there's confidence that Israel's going to be able to do some damage to that facility on
The
its
weapons
own.
that
And what may be an attempt to influence the
that
president's
Iraq
thinking
has,
on
I
the
think Iran
conflict,
has them.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered
Because they
remarks
don't
in
report
English
the
Thursday,
truth of what
saying he
happened.
trusted President
That's the
Trump's
problem.
judgment
You
on
know, you
Iran.
can't trust the media.
How do you think that
Because the
Iran
media
feels
only
about
reports
the
what the
lack of
government tells them
response from
to
their
say
terror
and what
proxies?
to report.
They feel alone and
So
afraid.
a
And
lot
if I
of
had to,
stuff gets
connect the dots,
hidden.
this is probably one reason why the Israelis witnessed
So
and sense that this is a
take the
sense of
media with a grain of
opportunity.
salt.
The fact that Hezbollah and Hamas have been deracinated and neutered, the fact that the U.S. had been dealing with the Houthis, the fact that the Shia militias in Iraq were too afraid to fire, or whose
Iraq has so much
whose
history.
firing was not
That's the
necessarily
problem. I
impactful
think they were
throughout the
going
course
more
of the
after the
wars of the
history and
post-October
not
7 Middle East,
after
meant that the Islamic
anything
Republic
else.
lost one major leg of its conventional deterrent. Conversely, as you see with the missile strategy not performing as well either, the other leg of the regime's conventional deterrent had fallen in. And given the fact that the regime is weak at home, economically bankrupt, socially has a little to no base at home, this is all why the Israelis sense that this was now or never.
I want to add something to all the ills that the current regime is undergoing right now. Despite talk of these ongoing negotiations, do we really believe that an 86-year-old religious zealot, quite frankly, to your point in that last answer, with absolutely nothing to lose, is really going to negotiate? That's my big concern here.
Well, the real art of the deal for the president is to make this
86-year-old stubborn
86-year-old
man
zealot that you
is not
mentioned,
going to
which is the
negotiate.
Middle East's longest-running contemporary dictator, to do exactly what his predecessor did, which he called drinking from the poison chalice, or settling for a suboptimal solution, forcing him to do what he doesn't want to do. But in the case that his ideology almost certainly overwhelms his pragmatism and his desire for survival, that he should know that the U.S. has all the capability and all the intent to really help make a nation that is a 88 million person nation.
Yeah, and then we were in Afghanistan, but we were there mostly for the poppy seeds, for the opium. Don't get it twisted. There's drug dealings all the time, man. They just don't talk about it. It's just weird. All right, let's talk about holy moly. There's a God and Jesus is a God, right? Let's listen in here.
In this video, I would like to share my idea, my thoughts about afterlife. I think our consciousness continues beyond death, definitely. Our consciousness is not just brain activity, but it is something deeper. I think you believe this. Science says that when the brain stops, then our consciousness disappears. You believe this now, but quantum physics says that information never disappears. Never. It only changes in forms. If our consciousness is quantum information, it may continue after the body is gone. For example, like computer data stored in the cloud, our consciousness may not be trapped in the brain. Quantum entanglement suggests that our consciousness is part of a bigger system beyond the physical world. Some scientists and philosophers believe that our world may be a simulation created by a higher dimension of being, which I believe. If this is true, then the death is not the end, but a shift to another reality. Just like a video game character disappears, but the player still exists. Our consciousness may continue in a higher dimension like this. Many people with near-death experience says They saw their bodies from above.
Me.
Felt warm light.
Holy shit!
And
I
deep
talk about
peace.
that.
They say they felt warm light and peace. These experiences seem like moving from one system to another, I think.
But I didn't go to the
So,
next system.
if reality is part of something bigger, then death is not the end, but it is a transition, shift to another reality. Science is growing now, and we are learning more about consciousness and reality. Our death is not destruction, but change and shift. Humanity will keep searching for the truth about what comes after life. Thank you.
Did you know that the smartest person in the world is a Korean? With an IQ of 276, Kim Young-hoon was declared to have the highest IQ ever recognized by the World Memory Championships and the World's Mind Sport Council. But beyond this illustrious title, Mr. Kim also founded a nonprofit, the United Sigma Intelligence Association, to gather together the world's greatest minds. He joins us today to talk about what it means to be declared the world's smartest person and what he intends to do with such an honor. Kim 대표님, welcome to The Globalist.
He needs a better haircut. He needs a better haircut. Better clothes too. No, his good memory. Congratulations, you remember that. I mean, and for me, I'm like, well, I guess, you know, it's smart as hell.
지금 이 276이라는 IQ, 저는 IQ가 그렇게 높이 올라가는 줄도 몰랐어요.
276이라는 게 수치를 계산하는 방식들이 여러 가지가 있는데 멘사 코리아나 표준 편차 24로 했을 때 276이라는 수치가 나왔고 국제적으로 많이 쓰는 표준 편차 15나 웩슬러 지능 검사라는 것에 또 기준으로 하면 210이라는 수치가 나오는데 멘사 코리아 IQ 수치로 환산을 해서 276이라는 수치가 나온 것입니다.
각 기관에서의 치르는 모든 시험에 거의 최고 점수를 받으신 거라고 보는데, 근데 말하자면 그게 뭐를 물어봐요? 제가 그럼 아주 복잡한 수학 공식을 여쭤보게 되나요? 아니면은 뭐 암기를 시키나요? 뭐를 해서 그 지능을 테스트하나요?
공식적인 지능 검사 기준으로 말씀드리면 언어 지능 추론 능력, 그다음에 기억력, 그리고 두뇌 속도 이런 것들을 합산을 해서 종합 지적 능력 지수로서 나오는 게 IQ입니다.
그러면 문제 하나 예를 들어주신다면 어떤 문제가 나와요? 그림을 잠깐 보여주고 막 여러 개를 보여주고 뭘 봤냐 그렇게 물어보는 거예요?
숫자를 10개가 있으면 그런 것들을 한 번씩 불려줘서 순서대로 또는 거꾸로 이렇게 기억을 하면 이제 채점이 되고 합니다.
Like, what makes him like, okay, so he has a good memory. Congratulations. I'm not here to take no fucking test. What the fuck? This is my show. I don't want to take no test.
제가 조금 젊었을 때만 해도 IQ 얘기가 많이 나와서 요새 뭐 IQ보다는 뭐 EQ다. 뭐 그러고는 또 요새는 젊은이들 사이에는 MBTI 그래서 뭐 다른 성적을 테스트한다. 그래가지고 여러 가지의 테스트를 하는 것이 이제 달라졌어요. 그거에 비해서 IQ 테스트의 어떤 의미 같은 걸
네.
본다면 어떻게 보세요?
네, 그런 부분들을 일반 대중들이 조금 오해하는 부분들이 있는데 IQ라는 것은 우리나라 보건복지부와 전 세계의 정부에서 인정하고 또 임상계 그리고 의학계, 뇌과학계에서 유일하게 두뇌를 측정할 때 사용하는 수단이 IQ 테스트이고 그 IQ 테스트를 시행하기 위해서는 한국 같은 경우는 보건복지부에서 발급하는 임상심리사 자격증을 획득을 하고 수련을 받고 많은 시간을 들여서 IQ 테스트를 시행을 하는데 다른 EQ나 뭐 다중지능 이런 것들은 사실 학계에서 인정하고 있지는 않습니다. 그리고 가장 중요한 점은 IQ 검사는 상대 평가로 이루어지기 때문에 상대적으로 내가 높다 이렇게 생각할 수 있고 절대 평가가 아닙니다. IQ는.
절대 평가가 아니에요.
절대 평가가 아니라 상대 평가로.
근데 지금 대표님과 그 다음 IQ 높은 분과의 차이가 굉장히 많이 난다고 들었는데 절대 평가가 아니라면은 어떻게 상대 평가로 이렇게 측정이 되나요?
IQ가 더 높다고 알려진 UCLA의 테렌스 타우 교수님 같은 경우는 230으로 알려져 있는데 그게 전 세계 표준 가장 많이 쓰는 IQ로 환산을 하면 181이 되고 그리고 그 성적이 산출된 근거는 성인이 돼서 측정한 게 아니라 어릴 때 예를 들면 초등학교 이럴 때 성인에 해당하는 점수를 받으면 그 정신 연령을 그 성인으로 계산을 해서 그 차이를 통해서 백분화를 시키는 거기 때문에 사실 그 수치는 상대평가로 나오는 수치는 아닙니다. 그래서 각각 비교하기는 조금 어려운 부분들이 있고 각각 테스트에서 응시자들 간의 상대평가로 산출된 것들이기 때문에 저 같은 경우하고 또 그분 같은 경우는 조금 다른 케이스이긴 합니다.
근데 대표님께한테 이런 질문을 많이 했을 것 같은데 사람들이 지금 요새 인공지능 AI, Artificial Intelligence 그러면 그 지능은 정말 지금 대표님의 높은 지능 점수보다 더 높은 거는 아닌가요?
인공지능 같은 경우도 사실 지능에 대해서 깊이 탐구해봐야 될 필요가 있는데 인간의 지능 속에는 이 유동성 지능이라는 게 있고 결정성 지능이라고 있습니다. 플루이드 인텔리전스랑 크리스탈라이즈드 인텔리전스가 있는데 인공지능은 이 결정성 지능에 대부분 해당하는 경우라서 예를 들면 데이터를 기반으로 학습을 하고 또 맞게 그것을 산출해내는 능력들이기 때문에 그것들이 인공지능이라고 한다면 유동성 지능은 학습이 전혀 안 된 상태에서 새로운 논리들을 맞닥뜨렸을 때 그것을 순수한 톤으로 풀어내는 능력을 또 유동지능이라고 합니다. 그래서 대중들이 아는 챗GPT 같은 경우도 이 3단 문법을 제대로 이해를 하지 못하고 있습니다. 그런 부분이라든지 알파고라든지 과거에 체스도 인공지능이 이겼는데 그런 부분들은 저는 우리 인간과 계산기가 붙으면 당연히 계산기가 이기듯이 그러한 부분들은 어떤 정해진 영역 아무리 많은 경우의 수다고
He said
하더라도
yum-yum?
결국에는 경우의 수의 끝이
don't
있기
be talking
때문에
like that, man.
그 한계 내에서
Keep it PG here, man.
결정성
At least,
지능이라고 할 수 있듯이
nah, I don't keep it PG.
학습을
'Cause
하면
I'm like rated R.
이길 수 있다.
'Cause I'm
이러한
rich.
것들을 보여줬다고 생각하고 제가 생각하는
Where's the rated
인간에게
R?
있어서
No,
가장
there's
중요한
no kids allowed here
유동성 지능은
anyways. All my shows
조금
are 18 and
인공지능과
over.
많은 다른 측면이 있다고 생각합니다.
후천적인 학습을 할 수 있는 게 이제
You don't need more
말하자면은
little
그
fuckers.
인간이 할 수가 있는 거고
네.
그냥 그거 있는 대로 그대로를 쓰는 자료와 지식을 가지고 경쟁해서 이길 수 있는 거는 AI가 할 수가 있는 거고.
알파고를 예를 들면 이렇게 가만히 1시간을 두면
Oh no.
인간 같으면
Running
한정된
back here.
그 숫자 대국만 할 수 있는데 인공지능은 짧은 시간 안에 엄청난 대국을 할 수 있듯이 그러한 영역에서는 인공지능이 가능하겠지만 제가 말씀드린 유동성 지능 같은 그러한 룰이 없는 상태에서 뭔가 새로운 문제를 해결해야 되고 한 번도 학습하지 않은 상황이 인간 사회에 엄청나게 많은데 그러한 문제들을 해결하기에는 인공지능은 아직 약한 인공지능이라고 표현을
They
합니다.
develop their language and then they
그 지금
understand it.
알파고가
And
하는
then it
이렇게
means
말하자면
like in
바둑이라는
English,
그러한
like the same,
룰과
like
가지고 있는 정형화된
Yeah.
게임
like
안에서는
how come there's not
알파고가
that
이
one
여러 가지
universal language?
지능이 높기 때문에 할 수 있는 능력이 높기 때문에 하는데
네.
갑자기
Everybody
이것이
on that
과연
side of the world
실생활에서
is
어떤
like
의미가 있느냐
Asian
하면은
or Indian.
알파고는 아무런 답이 없다는
You know?
네,
것일 수
그렇죠. 그런 부분도 있다고
A lot of-
생각하고 강한 인공지능과
And especially that,
약한 인공지능으으로 구분되기도
like
하는데
China
약한
and
인공지능이
other
현재
parts of
사용되는
there,
네.
인공지능이고 AGI라고 하는 강한 인공지능을 인간이 대비를 해야 되고 두려워한다고 하지만 사실 그게 빨라도 50년, 길면 100년이 넘어간다고 예측을 하고 있어서 그리고 그것이 불가능하다고 얘기하는 학자들도 많기 때문에 그 인공지능에 대한 저희들의 상상은 아주 그 범위가 넓고 해답을 내릴 수 없는 영역이라고 생각합니다.
아직은 근데 뭐 대표님 같은 분이 이제는 연구하시면은 뭔가가 답이 나오지 않을까요?
네,
He's a Korean, right? South Korean.
인공지능을 이기는 그런 연구라기보다는 현재 많은 산업들에서 활용되고 있는 인공지능을 활용해서 어떻게 하면 저 같은 경우에는 사람들의 두뇌 능력을 향상시킬 수 있는 방법이라든지 그러한 도구들을 개발해내는 그러한 것들이 저의 관심사입니다.
Yo, this guy. He definitely could talk a lot of shit, man. You have a high IQ, but that whole conversation just gave me a fucking headache. I didn't hear anything that would help the world or help anything. It was just helping himself. It was like self-gloat. Spotlight on me, bitch. Like, oh man, Gundam style. Oh no. Oh no, I got the little Korean dance in my head. Gundam style. Oh no. No. Sexy lady. No. Don't get them back in the memories. I don't want them in there anymore. That song was crazy. Oh man. But interesting times we're living in. That's all I'm just saying. It's just I guess the Australians are trying to evacuate their people. Let me take a look at that because that seems interesting.
Remain trapped in the conflict between Israel and Iran. The embassy in Tehran is now closed, limiting consular assistance. Defense aircraft are now being deployed to the region, but the government says it's getting harder to help those caught in the middle.
I need to keep laughing. I know, right?
A busload of Australians rushes out of Tel Aviv.
Bye.
Is bound for neighbouring Jordan. 38 made it on board, but nearly 1,200 more have asked for help to flee the war zone.
We are going to try and get as many people out as we can.
Another 2,000 Australians are trapped in Iran. The embassy in Tehran now
Oh,
closed.
shit.
Diplomats rushed across the border into Azerbaijan, complicating efforts to
I'm
help
sure there's
those
Americans in
still
there
on
too.
the ground.
No one wishes to have that work disrupted, but the government has a responsibility to ensure the safety of our staff.
ADF personnel and 2 passenger transport planes are being deployed to the Middle East to help with repatriation if and when the airspace reopens.
We are sending defence assets to help Australians. They are not there for combat.
There's commercial flights going out of Jordan. Why not just say, catch a bus to Jordan and catch a flight out?
As President Trump weighs American intervention, world leaders will discuss their response to the conflict at next week's NATO summit in the Netherlands.
Next week, bitch. You should have that shit tomorrow.
He is. Yes, we will be departing from Washington
Like,
on
what
Monday
are they
morning, and
waiting
hopefully we'll
for?
see some of you there.
But he won't be seeing Australia's Prime Minister. Anthony Albanese had considered a trip to The Hague in search of a meeting with Donald Trump after their G7 catch-up was cancelled. But he's decided against it. Sky News understands Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles will attend as planned, meaning the wait for FaceTime with the President goes on. Foreign Minister Penny Wong using a phone call with Secretary of State Marco Rubio to make the case for AUKUS.
I've outlined the benefits to all countries, all 3 countries of the AUKUS agreement.
Some in Washington still need further convincing. Cameron Redden, Sky News, Canberra.
I guess they're gonna have to evacuate their people somehow. They're gonna have to get them out. I mean, the U.S. is gonna have to get theirs out too, because there's a lot of Americans in there in Iran. They're just not saying it, but there's a lot of them. That's crazy, man. It's crazy times. Let's see. Australian government deploys troops. Let's see what this one is.
The Israeli city of Beersheba has come under attack for the 2nd straight day, the latest Iranian barrage coming as Donald Trump declares he will take the next 2 weeks to decide if the US will get involved in the conflict. Our CBS colleague Hayley Ott is in Tel Aviv for us tonight. Hayley, walk us through what it's like on the ground there.
Hello. It's actually been a relatively quiet day in Israel today. There was that missile strike in Beersheba that landed near an apartment building. It caused damage there. There were injuries, but the injuries were relatively minor. And officials say that's because Israelis here are heeding guidance. They're listening to when the sirens go off. They're going to shelters. That missile, the military says, got through because the air defense system failed to intercept it. The reason potentially that the situation here today has felt a little bit calmer might be because of that window for diplomacy that you mentioned. There are foreign ministers meeting in Switzerland today, including the foreign minister of Iran. And we heard the US President Donald Trump say that he was going to give a 2-week window until he made his decision about whether or not the United States would get more involved in this conflict. So that could be one part of what is affecting the situation on the ground today. Overnight, though, there were massive Israeli strikes in Iran. They hit dozens of targets to do with military sites, sites affiliated with the nuclear program. And also today, for the first time in a couple days, we've heard from our team in Gaza. We haven't been able to hear from them because the internet was down and the phones were down. But they are reporting that there were intensified strikes over the last day there as well. They're reporting that around 100 people have been killed. Around 20 of those people were trying to get humanitarian aid. Aid groups and the UN have said that the population of Gaza is at risk of starvation. Our team reports that no aid has entered the Gaza Strip for the last 48 hours.
Wow.
Thanks for that
That's
update,
fucked up,
Hayley.
too. You know what I mean?
And with the
It's
ongoing
like-
chaos in the
it's
Middle
crazy.
East, the Australian government has tonight deployed troops to help with the evacuation of thousands of citizens stranded in the warring countries.
Inside the operation to get Aussies out, our Israeli ambassador Ralph King sees off a busload of evacuees heading to Jordan as Iran keeps firing missiles after missile from secret locations. Its unrelenting barrage on Israel does not go unanswered, forcing the Australian government to act, today effectively closing our embassy in the Iranian capital, Tehran.
The Australian government has directed the departure of all Australian officials and dependents, and we have suspended our operations in Tehran. This is not a decision taken lightly.
Our ambassador to Iran will remain in the region, but for everyone else,
We urge Australians who are able to leave Iran to do so now if it is safe.
more than 2,000 Australians and their families in Iran have registered to flee, but with airspace closed, they're now being urged to get to the closest land crossing, Azerbaijan, from Tehran, an almost 800-kilometre trek. But that's where our DFAT crisis response team is headed to support Australians crossing the border.
ADF personnel and aircraft are being deployed to the Middle East as
That's
part
crazy.
of Operation
They're stuck there because they can't really do
Deployment
anything.
is obviously to assist Australians and not for combat purposes.
The US president will decide within a fortnight whether to strike Iran. His White House spokesman directly quoting him,
Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks.
There's an opportunity over the next 2 weeks for de-escalation, dialogue and diplomacy.
the US deadline, the eve of the 4th of July. Ali Donaldson for 10 News First.
That's just gonna be. It's gonna be trouble. I don't know. I just feel like. But let's go watch some other news here. I got some news I pulled up so for us to watch. Let's just set it up here and watch it. Give me a sec while I set it up. I got a couple of them I gotta set up. So bear with me as I get it set them up. But I hope you're having a good night, Mootang. Thanks for sticking it here with me. It's gonna be an interesting couple of news stories because I have not seen this, so we're watching it together for the first time. So let's see. Let's go with this individual here. Go and make it nice and big and start it up. Make sure the sound not fuck it up. Let's go.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Let's get into more of these top headlines, including one that we have followed extremely closely, the case of that former Columbia University graduate student and Palestinian rights activist talking about Mahmoud Khalil. Well, we heard from a judge today, and the ruling goes as follows. The judge saying
orders
Khalil
him
will
to be released
immediately from immigration
That's
detention.
crazy.
That was Judge Michael Farbiarz. He made the ruling from the bench in federal court in New Jersey today. Lawyers for the Palestinian activists had asked a federal judge to immediately release Khalil on bail from a Louisiana jail or else transfer him to New Jersey where he can be closer to his wife and his newborn son. Now, the same judge had ruled earlier that the government can continue to detain the legal U.S. resident based on allegations that he lied on his green card application. Khalil disputes the accusations that he wasn't forthcoming on the application. The judge previously determined Khalil could not continue being held based on the U.S. Secretary of State's determination that he could harm American foreign policy. So, after months in ICE detention, Mahmoud Khalil is likely to be released tonight. If we get any live images of that very release,
ICE is going to get him.
we'll make sure to bring it to you. So that's
They're
when
going
the
to
federal
release
judge
him,
has
right?
ordered all parties to
Are they going to
complete
get
the
him
conditions
again?
for his
Because-
release, but Khalil will be barred from traveling overseas and traveling to most states. Now, the judge ruled earlier that the government cannot continue to hold Khalil on those grounds, but the government argued that the legal U.S. resident was instead being held, like I said, based on allegations that he lied on his green card application. Now, the judge noted Khalil is married to a U.S. citizen. He has a newborn son who is also a U.S. citizen. He said Khalil is now clearly a public figure, given
They
his
could-
prominence
yes, no.
during the campus protests and since his detainment here. So he has been detained, remember, since March the 8th.
Yeah, but
he
they're
was
gonna
detained
watch
at his
his
apartment building in Manhattan. Take a look at this video of his arrest. You see it there. His lawyers say the Trump administration is simply trying to crack down on free speech. So that is the news. Had to update you on it, had to get it on your radar if you have not been made aware just yet that the judge here, federal judge in federal court, his name, Michael Farbiarz, saying Khalil should be released from immigration detention as soon as today.
That's wild. They're going to release him?
Now, as you would imagine, the Department of Homeland Security is responding to this decision.
Wow.
They say this in a post on X. I'm going to read it in full. They say this, that an immigration judge, not a district judge, has the authority to decide if Mr. Khalil should be released or detained. On the same day, an immigration judge denied Khalil bond and ordered him removed. One rogue district judge ordered him released. This is yet another example of how out-of-control members of the judicial branch are undermining national security. Their conduct not only denies the result of the 2024 election, it also does great harm to our constitutional system by undermining public confidence in the courts. It is privileged to be granted a visa or green card to live and study in the United States of America, they say. The Trump administration acted well within its statutory and constitutional authority to detain Khalil, as it does with any alien who advocates for violence, glorifies and supports terrorists, harasses Jews, and damages property. An immigration judge has already vindicated this position. We expect a higher court to do the same. So remember, this entire case, this entire saga was kind of playing out on two tracks at the...
That's just crazy. Let's check this one out there.
We just heard that Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University student, was just released from the Louisiana Immigration Detention Center that he's been held at since March. A federal judge, remember, ordered his release. The Trump administration wants Khalil. Let's listen in to him speaking to the media right now.
And this shouldn't have taken 3 months. I leave some incredible men behind me, over 1,000 people. In a place where they shouldn't have been, in that place, in the first place. I hope the next time that I will be in Jena is to actually visit this museum that's a testimony on America's racist policies against immigrants.
Racist against immigrants. Listen to this shit.
The hundreds of men
Listen to this shit.
who I left behind me shouldn't be there in the first place. The Trump administration are doing their best to dehumanize everyone here. Whether you are a U.S.
He's already been in office for 6 months,
or
okay?
just a person
So listen to this
stand,
asshole.
doesn't mean that you are less of a human. Thank you so much, everyone.
A quick question from The Guardian. So the Trump administration has labelled you a national security threat. They have fought tooth and nail to keep you detained in one of the most renowned and punitive detention centers in the country. Do you have any message for the Trump administration?
Trump and his administration, they chose the wrong person for this. That doesn't mean that there is a right person for this. There's no right person who should be detained for actually protesting a genocide, for protesting their university.
What you guys did to the
Columbia
school, you
University,
guys vandalized
that is investing in the genocide of
You
the
gotta be
Palestinian people.
Oh, man,
So this is my message. I
he's
will
a pure
be able
winner.
to give more comments at the press conference in New York
Yeah,
tomorrow.
this guy needs to be
I
recapped
really
and
need to
sent back
catch like the flight
wherever he's from.
What is the first thing you'll do when you get home tonight?
Just hug my wife and son. As simple as that.
Sounds like you're gonna have sexy time.
It's not get back. I did not actually spend time with my son. The only time I spent my son was in a specified 1 hour limit.
He's gonna get another a little American. He wants another little American.
So that means that now I can actually hug him and Noor, my wife, without looking at the clock. That now it's 59 minutes, and they have
How
to
the
come
hell
back
this guy got
to
out? I'll
his
tell you, a district judge released him, not an immigration
and then
judge.
an ICE officer.
A
is coming to this
district
court.
judge that has no.
What's your message to all
like,
other
federal
immigrants in this country
authority.
today?
I don't get it, man. I don't get the system, man. The system's
No
so
one
corrupt.
is illegal. No human is illegal.
This guy's
That's
a
the
clown.
message. the messages.
Like, if you knew his
justice
whole
will prevail,
story, he belongs in prison.
no
He
matter
belongs
what
not even here.
this administration may try to portraying that immigrants are whether criminals or any of that, trying to do all of this now. This simply is not true. And just to keep
Yeah, they're
the
trying to
fight
get rid of
against
it here
this
too.
administration.
Mahmoud, you spent 3
It's the
months in
birthright
detention
law
center
shit.
for
They want to
Spent
get rid of it.
104
Trump wants to
days,
get rid of it.
so more than 3 months.
Because these immigrants, illegal immigrants, they come and they use
Absolutely. I
it
mean,
and say, "Oh, my
the
kid's
moment
an
you enter this
American,
facility,
and I have to take care of
your
him, and I have
rights
to stay here
leave you-
to take
leave
care
you
of him."
behind.
They try to use them as an anchor.
So once you
That's what
enter
they call
there,
them, anchor babies.
you see a different reality, just a different reality about this country that
No more anchor
supposedly
babies.
champions human rights and liberty and justice. But once you cross literally that door, you
This
see the
guy,
opposite side.
he
what
thinks he's
actually
like
happening on this country.
he's making a difference.
Under
Just taking up
the
air.
eyes of everyone.
Okay, can we
but I
just
will
like
leave it here. Thank you so much, everyone.
Like-
And again, like I will be able to give more comments in New York.
who
but
cares
so
about your
much. Thank you so
comments?
much.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Who cares about you?
And
Go
you
have
are
sex with your
watching
wife.
Columbia
Go
University
fluffy
student
pump
Mahmoud
tonight
Khalil
and
outside the ICE
have another
detention
little
center where
American.
he was held for 104
Go in
days
your
in Genoa,
Tesla. You
Louisiana.
gonna get on a
He is now
Tesla?
a free
No,
man.
that's
Just
not your
walked out
car.
of
Is
those
it your
doors
car?
just moments ago.
Okay, so I guess
And
they're
remember,
one of
he
them
was
was in a Tesla.
detained back in March for his role in the pro-Palestinian protests on
And they
Columbia
showed her tag
University's campus. The Trump
number, which
administration
they could trace
advised
it
the
back
ICE
and
detention, the
know
ICE to
where
detain him
that
there for
car
his role
stays.
in those
They
protests.
should have
Katie
blacked out
Weiss
that
is on the
tag.
ground. We're waiting for her to get all set up in front of that camera. But you
Just
just saw
saying, you
Mahmoud
know?
Khalil, the Columbia University student,
Anybody could trace
detained
that
at the
tag
ICE
back
detention
and
facility right behind those
make them see
doors.
where
You're
they're
seeing the
going.
camera kind of swerve around there. But he walked out just moments ago, spoke to the cameras, and what stuck out to me was how anxious he was to see his family. His wife had a newborn son while he was detained, and he was only able to see his son for 1 hour during that entire time. So he's going back right now to New York to see his wife and his newborn son. Katie Weiss is setting up right there. She's catching her breath.
She's trying to get herself
She's a one-woman
organized.
show right there. She's got it
Let's go,
going
girl.
on. Katie, he just walked out of it. What stood out to you with that exchange there with the media, with Mahmoud Khalil?
Yes, thanks, Liz. It was a very powerful moment, a very quick one. As you can understand, after being in here for over 100 days, he was very excited to get home to his family. And I apologize for moving the camera around there. He just quickly stepped out right into the road. So I wanted to make sure I was out of the highway so I don't get hit by a car while I'm talking with you all. But yes, he
Yeah, they need to do that
wanted
here
to make
too,
sure, though, that
Moonshine.
his
I
message got
just,
through to our
you know,
viewers right now
I
watching.
think that's just
that
opportunistic
essentially
shit, you know?
he
Oh, let me hook
feels
up
that
with
when
an
you enter this
American, have a
facility
baby with
here
her,
in
and get
LaSalle,
married, and
the LaSalle
then I could
detention
automatically
facility
get a green card
in
or
Genoa,
whatever.
Louisiana, he says you
And
leave
become,
your rights
you know,
behind.
it's just
Immediately, he says it's been a long road. He hasn't been able
not
to
a good
see
way
his son except for a 1
I feel
hour
like that's cheating the
allowance
system.
during this time of being detained. You might recall his wife gave birth while he was detained here and was not allowed to be released on bond to be there for the birth, something that troubled his attorneys and other activists across the country. So today has certainly been a long time coming. I was actually
Yeah,
out here
it's been
last week,
abused.
last Friday. There was much anticipation
This
and
guy
hope
shouldn't
that he
even
would
be
be
out.
released then.
I can't believe
But there was a lot of back
the
and
district
forth
judge
in the courts.
got him out
Today's
instead of an immigration
judge's
judge.
ruling was, as you can see, definitive.
You know what I mean?
Finally,
It's
he was
like
able
someone.
to
It's
get
like a traffic
the
judge
release that
got
he's
him
been
out.
hoping for quite some time. And
You know,
really
it's
his
like
message
he has
to
no
other
business
immigrants is to stay strong.
in overturning,
And
you know,
strong he did
decisions
stay.
and so forth,
How is
and
the
yet
Trump
you have a
administration
rogue
responding
judge
to the news of Khalil's
that just
release?
released this dude.
Yeah, so the Trump administration has been avidly fighting and blocking to try to keep Khalil detained here at this facility in Jena. And essentially, the Trump administration today is saying that this is just another example of how the judiciary is, quote, out of control, essentially claiming that that the judiciary is gone beyond their allowance, their powers to be able to release Khalil, saying that it's at a threat to national security. And you heard another reporter here on scene asked him, do you think you're a threat to national security? Of course, he says no. And we know from attorneys on both sides so far, there has not been any evidence presented in the court system so far to prove that he would be a threat to national
9 months pregnant,
security.
and then
So
he comes
far,
and gets
just this past
arrested.
week, the only thing
You
that
know,
he
and
was
thrown in prison
being
and
held
shit, and
on
then she
was
gives
an
birth,
alleged
and
green
then
card
now they have an
fraud,
anchor
that he had
baby,
omitted information on his
and
green card
you know,
application.
and now he got
And,
released because
the
a rogue
argument
judge
for
decided
that,
to release him.
from his attorneys was essentially,
So
that's
stupid.
ridiculous, that very few people, if any, have been held on that kind of an argument in the past. And so there's not much precedent really to hold someone for that, that the omissions were not in any way nefarious.
And Mahmoud Khalil headed back to New York to see his wife and newborn son.
Crazy. That is so. You can tell the system is fucked up here in the United States. I was just saying, the system is just really, really fucked up. Let me see. Let's watch this war of words between Karen Bass and JD Vance. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be interesting. I got two stories on this same one, so let me set it up. Make sure everything's set here. Everything's set. Yep. Let's go ahead and play it.
We begin with breaking news, a war of words between local officials and Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance flying into L.A. this afternoon for a quick visit, meeting with Marines and Border Patrol at the Federal Building Command Center in Westwood. Then he bashed local officials for their response to the immigration protests, even taking aim at California Senator Alex Padilla, who was just in that building last week, interrupting Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem during a press conference.
The good news is the rioting has gotten a lot better, but the bad news is, as I heard from everybody, unfortunately, the soldiers and Marines are still very much a necessary part of what's going on here because they're worried that it's going to flare back up.
Now, during her press conference, LA Mayor Karen Bass lashed out at Vice President Vance, who for a moment called Alex Padilla Jose Padilla and never corrected himself for doing so. Bass said that was offensive.
Mr. Vice President, how dare you disrespect our senator? You don't know his name, but yet you served with him before you were vice president, and you continue to serve with him today, because the last time I checked, the vice president of the United States is the president of the U.S. Senate. You serve with him today, and how dare you disrespect him and call him Jose? But I guess he just looked like anybody to you. Well, he's not just anybody to us. He is our senator. And you fly in, you parachute in the city. I don't know if you've ever been here before. You parachute in the city, you pass all kinds of judgment, and then you leave. And you add to the provocation, you add to the division, or you attempt to create division in our city. But I just want you to know that our city is standing together. We are united. You might attempt to create division, but you are united. Standing with me today are families, business owners, community leaders, representatives, and nothing you can do will divide us.
Mayor Bass accused J.D. Vance of lying and damaging our economy. Now, before Vance addressed the Marines in West L.A., he sat down with Fox's Bill Malugin for an exclusive interview. Here's a portion of that.
So you're here in Gavin Newsom's backyard. Yep. Whole lot going on in the world right now. Sure. Why come to LA right now?
Well, first of all, we've wanted to come and check out what's actually going on the ground, show some support to the FBI agents, the National Guardsmen, and the Marines who have been here, I think, bringing peace to what was a very chaotic situation, thanks to the leadership of Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. If you really think about what's at stake here is the basic principle of, do we get to enforce federal immigration law when the people's duly elected president says we've got to enforce our borders? And I think obviously the answer is yes. And what you saw in Los Angeles was really, I think, a conspiracy of the mayor, the governor, and a lot of radical left protesters who are going to say, no, we're not going to let people enforce the immigration laws of the United States of America. We in the Trump administration had a different attitude towards that. Obviously, you've seen that immigration happen all over Southern California. I think we've now restored some order to Los Angeles, and thank God that we did, because I think absent President Trump's leadership, you would have seen the city really spiral out of control, which we don't want. I think it's a beautiful city. It's got a lot to offer, but you've got to be able to enforce immigration law.
What's your metric for determining how long the military is going to be here in Los Angeles? Things are calm right now. Are you going to keep them here for a while in case there's more activity? When do you pull them out?
I think what the president says, you got to do this case by case, right? See how this goes, see where we are in a few days, ensure that you don't have the increase in rioting activity. I mean, look, when these riots break out, people can't access basic services, stores get destroyed, people's economic life is destroyed. And of course, if the riots really get out of control, you have people violently attacked. So we're going to pull out the troops when we feel confident that level of instability is not going to return. But of course, when that happens and when the president makes that decision, of course, it's easy to put people back in if you feel like that rioting starts to ramp up again.
At the beginning of the administration, the idea was worse first, right? Targeting the worst of the worst criminals.
Sure.
You guys are still doing that, but we're also starting to see Home Depots getting hit, car washes, agriculture workers. Is the net widening? Because we hear, there's targets. They want 3,000 arrests a day. So are you guys widening the net in terms of who you're going after now?
Well, first of all, Bill, let's step back and appreciate just the radical success of the Trump administration. Simply through having a president who cared about border enforcement, we've gone from close to 3 million illegal border crossings per year to actually net negative illegal immigration in this country. In other words, we're deporting far more people than are coming in illegally into our country. That's exactly what should be happening. And that really all it required was a president who empowered federal law enforcement to do the job of enforcing our borders. So yes, you're right. Now, what do we do? What the president has said is we really want to focus on the illegal immigrants who came during the Biden administration, but also we're enforcing everywhere. In other words, the president has said if you are an illegal immigrant into this country, you ought to voluntarily go back and come through the proper channels, because we don't want people who have come into the country illegally just staying here indefinitely. That's not the policy of the Trump administration. We've empowered law enforcement to really enforce the law. Yes, we're focusing on the most violent criminals. We're focusing on people who came here illegally over the Biden administration, but put simply, if you came into the country illegally, if you're not a legal resident of the United States of America, you ought to go back home and come through proper channels.
Our thanks to Bill Melugin for that conversation. Bill did that interview with the vice president before the news conference where Vance spoke. I, along with other local media members, requested access to that press conference, but the White House denied all of our requests. 8 members of the national media were allowed in, no local reporters able to ask him about any local issues. For more on all this, let's bring in Congresswoman Luz Rivas. Her district includes a wide swath of the San Fernando Valley, including Arleta, Pacoima, and Pamarana City. Welcome to the show for the first time. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
What did you think of what you just heard?
Plain and simple, it was a disgusting and disrespectful cheap shot against Senator Alex Padilla, someone who is literally
Lord, that's why he
himself
rejected
online for the immigrant community. But this is what is on track for the president and vice president.
Is it possible that he just
Oh,
misspoke?
boy, you can
Sometimes
tell
people
she's a liberal.
forget a name or say something, and maybe he misspoke and it wasn't an intentional racist thing.
J.D. Vance served with Senator Alex Padilla in the U.S. Senate, and he is the president of the U.S. Senate as our vice president. People know the names of the California U.S. senators. Alex is something you can pronounce. A lot of times people mispronounce my first name, but Alex, everybody knows Alex Padilla, the California U.S. senator.
Vance said something else that I wanted to play for you. Take a listen.
She's butthurt.
All of these law enforcement officials were necessary because what happened is, in response to the basic federal action of enforcing immigration law, you had local officials and radical left-wing agitators who actually encouraged violence, who facilitated violence and rioting in the great city of Los Angeles.
Do you
Oh, here
know
she
of
comes.
any? Maybe there was one situation with
Oh my God,
maybe one
she's
council member,
butt-hurting
but by
again.
and large, do you know of any local officials who encourage
Listen
violence?
to this shit.
No, all of us were encouraging our communities to engage in peaceful protests. They're just using these same talking points to have as an excuse for bringing in
Oh,
the
yeah.
military and the National
So
Guard.
why were
into
you
Los
out there in the
Angeles.
first place?
You know, the vice president
Oh,
is,
because of
it's
illegal
clear that they've
immigrants?
expanded
Are you
this outreach
stupid?
from trying to go after violent convicted criminals to basically anybody who's here illegally. But there are some people that appreciate that say, look, these people cut the line. They took a risk when they were coming here. You have no right to be here illegally. And we voted for mass deportations. Trump was talking about that all the time. What's your response to people who say that Democrats are protecting people who came here illegally?
Well, many of the immigrants that are being taken away by ICE are hardworking. They're not criminals. They're just trying to provide for their children, their family. But in addition, a lot of legal residents and U.S. citizens are being detained. They're being targeted. So this is racial profiling that is happening. I'm a U.S. citizen born in Los Angeles, Mexican American, and they can come after me. They just look at me and assume that I may be undocumented. And so that's the problem that many people have too. But I believe there should be a pathway to citizenship. We need immigration reform now.
You went the other day to Adelanto to check out the detention center there with other Democratic members of Congress. Real quickly, what was your big takeaway from that experience, from going behind closed doors, which we haven't been able to see because we're not allowed to videotape inside there, in terms of what you saw?
Yeah, I went with 4 other members of Congress. We were not allowed to take in our phones and videotape anything either. We were just allowed a notepad and a pen to take notes. So we were able to meet with detainees. I met with someone that was seeking asylum, and him and his wife were doing everything the legal way, went in for their 3rd court appointment. Their case was dismissed and they were arrested and sent to Adelanto. And this is everyone doing things by the book. These are immigrants. I met immigrants there that are from Miami. So they're purposely shipping people from other states here to California, and a lot of the detainees that are from California are being sent to Texas and to other states. That's not efficient. They're doing this intentionally so that people's families and legal resources will not be available to go and meet with them.
Luz Rivas, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your views. Great to hear your perspective.
Thank you.
She looks like she needs a enema. She looks like she's still pissed off. My goodness gracious. Like, take a chill pill, lady.
Right, as you see there, we were just listening into some of those remarks there from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis after these flights arrived back in the United States from Israel. Of course, as you can see, we have some action as well now happening in the top right corner of your screen. Want to take it in full for you here. We are expecting, as you can see there, JD Vance. He's officially there in Los Angeles.
I want to hear what he said,
walking up to the mic to make some of these remarks.
because they all got crazy for a second.
And thanks especially to the Marines from 29 Palms for being here, for serving their country and providing some much needed security. As a matter of fact, I just heard from a couple of law enforcement officers, basically, thank you. Thank you to the president for sending in the DOD officials, for sending in the soldiers and Marines, because unfortunately, a lot of these federal buildings were under very serious threat. I heard about a lot of that during my tour here today. And the reason I'm here is I just wanted to hear from the law enforcement officials themselves, the state officials, the local officials, but also the federal officials, what's actually going on here on the ground. I think there's some good news, and the good news is the rioting has gotten a lot better. But the bad news is, as I heard from everybody, unfortunately, the soldiers and Marines are still very much a necessary part of what's going on here because they're worried that it's going to flare back up. And what do I mean when I say flare back up? I think it's useful to take stock of what actually happened in the city of Los Angeles over the past couple of months. So first of all, to set the table, we have a public official in Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, who over the past few years have actively encouraged illegal migration into this community. have strained public services, have strained law enforcement, and really have offered generous benefits, not to American citizens, but to illegal immigrants to break the law, to come into our country, and to receive generous public assistance for having done so. What has that done? That has created an illegal immigration crisis, of course, facilitated by the policies of the Biden administration, and there is perhaps nowhere where that crisis has fallen harder than in the great city of Los Angeles. And, you know, I landed, when I saw this city, when I was driving through to come to this FBI building, all I could think about is what a great American city Los Angeles is, and what a great tragedy it is that we have allowed illegal immigration and rioting to destroy, I think, one of the great gems of the American family. Now, these guys surrounding me represent the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They represent immigration enforcement. And of course, we just met some Marines who represent the Department of Defense. All of these law enforcement officials were necessary because what happened is, in response to the basic federal action of enforcing immigration law, you had local officials and radical left-wing agitators who actually encouraged violence, who facilitated violence and rioting in the great city of Los Angeles. What happened here was a tragedy. You had people who were doing the simple job of enforcing the law, and they had rioters egged on by the governor and the mayor, making it harder for them to do their job. That is disgraceful. And it is why the president has responded so forcefully. What happened in Los Angeles, number one, because we've got to enforce our borders and get so many of these criminals out of our country to begin with. And number two, when you have violent agitators who make it impossible for the law enforcement to do their job, it is necessary to protect them and to defend them. We have to remember that the Friday that the riots started, before there was ever a single National Guardsman, before the President of the United States had sent in additional federal resources, you had law enforcement officers who were being captured and beaten by violent mobs egged on by Gavin Newsom and other officials. It was necessary to send the National Guard to stop that process, to bring some order back to this great city, and to make it possible for the people's president to enforce the people's immigration law. That's why we're here. That's why these guys are standing beside me. That's why we have close to 5,000 soldiers and Marines from the Department of Defense. It's because we've got to enforce the law. The president takes that very seriously. I'm happy to take a few questions, but before I do, I just want to send a message to all of the law enforcement, local, state, and federal, who frankly I think are suffering from a bit of a morale problem because they've had the local government in this community tell them that they're not allowed to do their job. I just want to let you know, from the president, the vice president on down, this administration stands with you. We're grateful for the job that you do every single day. We know that we wouldn't have a border were it not for your hard work and for your efforts. And we're going to keep on fighting for you and keep on standing with you every step of the way. I heard today Border Patrol officials tell me that they feel like the local government is sicking violent mobs on them when they go out to the community to enforce the nation's immigration laws. Can you imagine what it's like to be a federal official doing your job, doing the job the president of the United States ordered you to do, and have a mob come after you for following orders and for enforcing the American people's laws? I think it's disgraceful that we've ever gotten to this place in this country, but thank God we've got a president and an administration that is pushing back against lawlessness. We're going to keep on doing it every step of the way. So thank you to the Border Patrol. Thank you to the soldiers and Marines. Thank you to the U.S. attorneys. Thank you to the FBI. Thank you to all of you for doing what is necessary to enforce the laws of the American people. We are grateful to you, and we'll keep on fighting for you. Now I'll take a few questions.
Would you say that Gavin Newsom is endangering law enforcement here in California, and what should he be doing if he was protecting them?
Look, I would absolutely say that Gavin Newsom is endangering law enforcement. The law enforcement officials themselves tell me as much, that when they go out, let's say you have a Border Patrol official who needs to go out and arrest somebody, maybe a violent criminal who's also an illegal alien. When that Border Patrol agent goes out to do their job, they said within 15 minutes of them trying to do their job, they have protesters, sometimes violent protesters, who are in their face, obstructing them, preventing them from doing their job, and endangering their lives. Why do they have that? Because those people have been egged on by local officials. Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, by treating this city as a sanctuary city, have basically said that it is open season on federal law enforcement. They have treated Border Patrol and border enforcement as somehow an illegitimate force instead of what they are, which is the American people's law enforcement trying to enforce the American people's laws. So when Gavin Newsom encourages violence and rioting, when he encourages people to get in the face of our great Border Patrol officers, he is absolutely endangering the lives of federal enforcement. He's absolutely endangering the lives of mothers and daughters and fathers and sons who have been sent here to do a simple thing, enforce the law. And thank God they're willing to do it despite the fact that the local leadership of this community has made it harder on them and has in fact endangered their lives as they go about to do their important work.
President, your reaction to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, their decision yesterday, just want to get your reaction to that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that for the past couple of weeks, Gavin Newsom has said that there's an illegitimate effort to send federal resources to secure a city that he refuses to secure. And what the Ninth Circuit said yesterday is that that was a completely legitimate and proper use of federal law enforcement. The president has a very simple proposal to everybody in every city, every community, every town, whether big or small. If you enforce your own laws and if you protect federal law enforcement, we're not going to send in the National Guard because it's unnecessary. But if you let violent rioters burn great American cities to the ground, then of course we're going to send federal law enforcement in to protect the people the president was elected to protect. And I think what the Ninth Circuit said very clearly is when the president makes a determination that you've got to send in certain federal officials to protect people, that determination was legitimate, and the president's going to do it again if he has to. But hopefully it won't be necessary. We don't want to send these great Marines to cities like Los Angeles. We only do it if we have to protect federal property and to protect the lives of our great law enforcement folks.
Protesters, some of them funded by Democratic groups who were releasing the addresses of ICE agents in hotels around here.
Well, you know, it just drives home. I was actually shocked to hear this, and I didn't realize this until I was in the command center earlier talking to some of these great officials, that oftentimes you have far left agitators who are posting the names, the addresses, even the family members of some of our law enforcement in an effort to harass them, antagonize them, and even threaten their lives. And what do I take from that? What I take from that is that you have a very small group of people who are so against the idea of border enforcement that they're willing to threaten and endanger the lives of their fellow Americans who are enforcing the law. And something else I take from it is that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have got to stop this craziness. Every single law enforcement officer I talked to today, every single one of them said they feel like the local leadership, the mayor and the governor, are encouraging these far left agitators. What is the justification for this? What is the reason for this? There is a broad bipartisan consensus that we ought to have border enforcement and we ought to enforce our nation's laws. So why do you have far left agitators egged on by local officials who are encouraging these agitators to harass and to threaten our border patrol? You have it because of a lack of common sense. These people need to be stopped. These people need to be told that if you threaten a law enforcement officer, you're going to go to prison for it. And that's exactly what the Trump administration, that's the message that we're sending. But look, we could do so much better and we could have such an easier pathway for these federal law enforcement officers if the local leadership wasn't egging this on. And I think that's the great tragedy. What I see here today is the great tragedy when a mayor and a governor encourages their citizens to harass and endanger the lives of our police officers and our law enforcement officers. It's heartbreaking to see, and thank God we've got great people who are willing to persevere despite it.
Another question, Mr. Vice President. There's been back and forth about whether raids will be going on in agricultural businesses and restaurants. Could you tell us if that's going to continue or not?
Well, the president's made 2 points on this that I think are very worth emphasizing. Number one, if you are in this country illegally, you are at threat of deportation because that's what it means to enforce the country's laws. If you've come here illegally, the policy of the Trump administration is that you shouldn't be here. You should go back and then come through proper channels if you so desire. But the president has also said that he wants to focus our critical and short supply law enforcement resources on going after the really bad guys, on the violent criminals, on the rapists, on the drug cartel members. We've still got a lot of those people in our country, and that's where the president wants to focus law enforcement resources, and that's what he'll continue to do.
Democrat lawmakers who keep getting handcuffed. The New York Times just did a story. They keep getting handcuffed, suggesting that the Trump administration is cracking down on Democrats. Can you comment on that?
Well, I was hoping Jose Padilla would be here to ask a question, but unfortunately, I guess he decided not to show up because there
Well, he
wasn't a
called him
theater.
Jose.
And that's all it is.
Alex.
You know, I think everybody realizes that's what this is. It's pure political theater. These guys show up. They want to be captured on camera doing something. They want to be able to go back to their far left groups and to say, look, me, I stood up against border enforcement. I stood up against Donald Trump. When all they're really standing up for is for drug cartels to run rampant over our country and sex traffickers to be able to continue to traffic little kids into our country. That's what you're doing when you stand against border enforcement. So I think these guys, we ought to laugh them out of the building. We ought to call them out for doing what they're doing, which is grandstanding. And if they want to work seriously on border enforcement and on keeping their communities safe, the Trump administration's door is wide open, but they're not doing that. They love the grandstanding. They hate law enforcement because they hate the idea of the United States of America having a border. It's a disgrace, but it is what it is. We'll do one more question.
Sure. Just another thing. Do you think that the administration has been too aggressive with the deportation efforts? Like, are non-criminals getting caught up in the dragnet as well?
No, look, I don't think that we've been too aggressive at all. I mean, first of all, anytime that a mistake has been made, we correct that mistake very quickly. But the unfortunate reality is that Joe Biden let in 15 to 20 million illegal aliens into this country, and there is no way for us to actually get those unlawful illegal immigrants out of the United States of America without some serious law enforcement. And that's what we've been trying to do. It's not too aggressive. It's not, not aggressive enough. It's just the right approach to make sure that we're enforcing our country's border laws. We have to remember 100,000 Americans die of fentanyl overdoses brought in by the Mexican drug cartels. We've got a terrible sex and human trafficking problem because of what these cartels are doing at the southern border. The president deserves great credit because after 45 days, you saw illegal border crossings draw to a small fraction. Illegal border crossings down over 99% under President Trump's leadership. But unfortunately, because Joe Biden was president for 4 years, we've got a lot of bad people in the United States of America that we've got to do the job of getting out of our country. That's what these guys are doing. We ought to support them, and we ought to have local leadership that empowers them to do their job of making Americans safer. Instead, Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, they've decided to go to war against the people trying to keep our communities safe. That's a disgrace. That's a terrible commentary on their qualities as leaders. But the Trump administration is going to keep on standing for the American citizens and for American law enforcement. Thank you all. Great to be here. And thank you to you guys.
Wow.
All right, as you see there, that very brief news conference wrapping up there in Southern California as Vice President J.D. Vance arrived there in the LA area to tour a federal law enforcement operations center, as well as meet and greet with some of those Marines who were there on the ground. So again, President Trump, of course, federalized thousands of troops from the California National Guard in response to the LA protests and ordered about 700 Marines as well to be deployed to protect federal property.
There's his
the
agent.
president has directed
His
federal
agents.
immigration authorities to prioritize deporting immigrants.
Oh man! All right, let's go to this last one for the night. The last I guess. Let me see. Is it the last one? Yes, it's the last one. Okay, this is the last one for the night. It's from our good friend Tyson De La Cruz. So let's check it out. He just posted this about 49 minutes ago. So let's check it out.
Deadly drugs and several gang members now off the streets of New Jersey.
The group and drugs targeted in an early morning takedown in Newark.
America, while mainstream media obsesses over Trump's cabinet picks, one of the most brilliant appointments is already delivering results that'll blow your mind. Alina Habba, Trump's former attorney, is now interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey, just led massive coordinated raids that took down violent gang networks terrorizing American communities. We're talking about Tren de Aragua gang members wanted for armed robberies on New York City subways, Blood gang members running fentanyl operations that could kill 500,000 people, and over 40 arrests in what they're calling Operation Apex Hammer. What's really incredible, she's doing this while the Biden administration was letting these same criminals walk free for years.
And U.S. Attorney Lena Habba says, listen, this is not going to happen anymore in my home state. So she teamed up with U.S. Marshals who were going after the worst of the worst as they knocked on those doors and said, you can run, but you can't hide.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This is exactly what we voted for. Real law enforcement that puts American safety first instead of coddling criminals. Alina Habba is already showing the country what happens when you have prosecutors who actually want to prosecute. Let me break this down for you. Alina Habba, who defended Trump, is now using the same fighting spirit to take down the most dangerous criminals in New Jersey. In coordinated operations with U.S. Marshals, she targeted violent gang members who have been terrorizing communities for years under Biden's soft on crime policies.
Police department with a warrant. Open the door.
An early morning raid in Newark, New Jersey.
We're talking about suspected gang members wanted for murder, robbery, and assault operating just miles from New York City. These aren't petty criminals. These are violent offenders who have been walking around freely while law-abiding Americans live in fear. Operation Apex Hammer is a month-long operation that has already led to more than 40 arrests. And Alina Habba made it clear they're just getting started. Fox News got exclusive ride-along access to U.S. Marshals serving warrants to some of the most dangerous criminals in the tri-state area.
Cases at once to make sure that we clean up as quickly as possible.
Where are we going now?
Now we're going to go to another Newark location.
The first target was a suspected Tren de Aragua member wanted for a string of armed robberies in New York City subways. This is the same Venezuelan gang that has been terrorizing American cities, taking over apartment complexes, and running criminal operations with complete impunity under the Biden administration. But when they got the location, the main target wasn't home. Instead, they found multiple illegal immigrants who federal agents say are all in the country illegally. This perfectly shows the connection between Biden's open border policy and the crime wave plaguing our cities.
Habba and her team waiting for that main target to surrender, but he's not home. Instead, these migrants who the feds say are all in the country illegally finally come out.
You know what, guys? Watching Alina Habba fight for American families against these dangerous criminals reminds me of another group that needs someone fighting for them, our seniors, who are constantly under attack from Medicare scammers and insurance fraudsters.
I like the slick. He's slick.
Defending Trump.
He slides that in like a very slick
And
way.
now she's using the same skills to
Very
prosecute
smooth.
actual criminals. That's exactly the kind of
He
fierce
goes right
advocacy
into
our
the-
seniors need to deal with the Medicare maze.
To
That's why
promote.
Chapter is different. Their advisors are like having your own Alina Habba in your corner for Medicare decisions. They don't work for insurance companies. They work for you. No backdoor deals, no hidden agendas, just straight up advocacy. Here's what I love about Chapter. They treat
I tell him all
Medicare
the
like
time,
the
so
serious
that's
decision it is. Just like Alina Habba doesn't mess around with gang members, Chapter doesn't mess around with your health care. They dig deep into your specific situation, your doctors, your medications, your budget, and build a case for the best plan. Just like these gang raids are saving American communities, Chapter is saving seniors from financial disaster. The average person overpays $1,200 per year on Medicare because they don't have somebody fighting for them. If you're 65 or approaching Medicare eligibility, get somebody in your corner who actually fights for you. Check out Chapter at askchapter.org/Tyson or give them a call at 270-467-0614. When everyone else is trying to take advantage of you, you need somebody who's actually on your side. Now, back to how Alina Habba's team is dismantling these violent criminal networks. The raids didn't stop here. Her team moved to another Newark location to arrest a female gang member who shot her partner and has gang affiliations. This shows the level of violence these criminals are bringing to American communities.
This New Jersey woman arrested after investigators say she recently shot at least 2 people.
They conducted another bust where a suspect wanted for aggravated assault nearly escaped from a fire escape. These criminals think that they can run and hide, but Alina Habba has a message for them.
And our directive is very clear. We will come after you if you break the law. We will come after you if you are an illegal alien that has come in illegally. You will be dismissed, removed, and we will not tolerate any crime in this country anymore. That is common sense.
That's the kind of tough law enforcement we need in every single city in America. The gang raids were just part of Alina Habba's comprehensive approach to cleaning up New Jersey. Her office also led a massive operation against a blood gang drug trafficking network that was terrorizing the Crenchmere Home public housing complex in Newark.
Over the past year, the Bloods gang has terrorized the Kretschmer Homes public housing complex in Newark, New Jersey.
using violence and fear to operate their drug trafficking business.
This wasn't just any drug operation. They seized approximately 7,000 grams of heroin and fentanyl. That's enough fentanyl to kill 500,000 people. Let that sink in. One gang operation in Newark had enough poison to wipe out 500,000 Americans.
This operation removed numerous firearms and approximately 7,000 grams of heroin and fentanyl from our streets.
But here's what's really sick about these criminals. They were using clever packaging to make their deadly product seem less harmful. They stamped their fentanyl and cocaine packages with names like Scarface, Cocoa Puffs, and Purple Rain to make them seem more attractive.
We allege that they market fentanyl, the deadliest drug in our country, and cocaine, the most addictive drug in our country, by stamping wrappers with names like Scarface, Cocoa Puffs, Purple Rain, to make the content inside the package less scary.
What makes Alina Habba's work so impressive is the sophisticated investigation techniques her team used. This wasn't just random raids. This was a result of a long-running multi-agency investigation involving the FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office, Drug Enforcement Administration, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, says the raid was the result of a long-running investigation,
which included court-authorized wiretaps, controlled purchases by informants and undercover officers, hundreds of hours of surveillance, and search warrants on over a dozen different locations in the Garden State.
This is what real law enforcement looks like when you have prosecutors who actually want to put criminals behind bars. The 25 people charged in the Newark operation are facing 10 years mandatory minimum sentence with the possibility up to life in prison. This is the kind of serious consequences these criminals deserve. But Alina Habba and her team aren't declaring victory just yet. Even after these massive raids, reporters found that open air drug transactions were still happening in the same locations just hours later. This shows how deeply entrenched these criminal networks have become under years of the Biden soft on crime policies.
I have to tell you, if any undercover agent had doubled back to that very scene an hour or two after that early morning raid, they would have seen what I saw. Open air drug transactions still going on in that spot. I saw at least 2 of them.
This perfectly illustrates the scope of the problem Alina Habba inherited. These criminal networks have been operating with impunity for so long, they think that they can just resume business, but they're about to learn that the days of catch and release are over.
A now unsealed federal criminal complaint charges 25 members of the drug trafficking organization with conspiracy to distribute 400 or more grams of fentanyl and 280 or more grams of crack cocaine.
America, what we're seeing in New Jersey is exactly what happens when you put a competent, tough prosecutor in charge instead of soft on crime liberals who coddle criminals. Alina Habba is showing the entire country what real law enforcement looks like. When she was defending Trump against bogus lawfare attacks, she was preparing for this moment, the chance to actually prosecute real criminals who are terrorizing American communities. Gang members wanted for murder and armed robbery, drug dealers with enough fentanyl to kill 500,000 people, and violent criminals who thought they could hide in sanctuary jurisdictions. Operation Apex Hammer is just getting started with more than 40 arrests and counting. This is what happens when you have leadership that actually wants to protect American communities instead of protect criminals. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Under Biden, these gang members were walking free, dealing fentanyl and terrorizing communities. Under Trump's team, they're getting arrested, prosecuted, and facing decades in prison. This is exactly why Trump chose people like Alina Habba for key positions. She's not interested in political games or virtual signaling. She's interested in results and getting violent criminals off the street and making American communities safe again. I'll keep you updated as Operation Apex Hammer continues to take down criminal networks. And remember, this is what happens when you elect leaders who actually want to enforce the law. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
That's pretty cool. Tyson de la Cruz. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them out here, man. They're all over. They're like roaches. Like, you get a group and you take them in, but then they're still outside. They're all over the place. It's like roaches. Like, if you ever had to deal with a roach infestation, that's what it is. This is like what it is. It's out of hand here. It's really crazy. It's gonna take a long time. It's gonna take decades to get these people out of here. It seems like it. It seems like it because they're not going away easily, as you can see with all the protests and all the stuff that's going on. It's not an easy mission, but I'm gonna wrap up the show now because I'm tired and I want to get to bed like others do too. So I would like to wish everyone a good night, a good afternoon, and a good morning wherever you're at. And I'll catch you all on the flip side. And it was an interesting show today. I mean, it was pretty cool. Just the World War III shit is kind of creepy. And, they released that Khalil guy. So that was weird. A district judge releases an individual that's being held by the federal government, and immigration judge put him there, but yet a district judge comes and takes him out. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just so weird. We're living in weird times. That's all I gotta say. It's just so weird. Anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, guys, and see y'all tomorrow. I'll be on here tomorrow. See if I can do an early show. Let's see how I feel. Hopefully I feel up to it and I can come on early, see if there's anything that's happening around the world overnight. We'll go over the news of the evening, the night before, and we'll see what's up. With that said, have a good rest, have a good sleep, dream, and I'm out. Peace.